Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Thank you guys for all of the well wishes already coming through in our chat. I am getting married next weekend, so my life is a little crazy at the moment. You guys probably noticed we didn't actually live stream yesterday. We just put out some other content. When you are 12, now 11 days out from your wedding, turns out there is a zillion things to do in preparation for that. So my life has been a little crazy, but it has all been absolutely wonderful. And I am so excited for this next milestone in my personal life. Our schedule, therefore, looks a little bit different. It's obviously 4 o'clock, not 3 o'clock. We didn't stream yesterday. There will probably be a couple more days like that in the next couple of weeks. But just wanted to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for all of you being a part of this community and walking in this very exciting new journey with me. Good news is we are live today across all of our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, Locals, and Instagram. And I just want to say, get ready, because I don't think everybody is quite prepared for what we're going to talk about today. And that is a new form of male birth control in a gel, lotion, hand sanitizer thing. Yeah, it's going to get a little interesting today. As we are kicking things off, want to give a huge shout out to our amazing headline sponsor that helps to make all of our long form content possible, our friends at Public Square. While the rest of society seems hell-bent on destroying male sperm count and fertility by instituting super cool new male birth control, Public Square is dedicating the month of June to celebrating real manhood and masculinity in all of its glory, also in the face of Pride Month. If you're not already familiar, Public Square is a network of more than 100,000 small businesses in America that are all pro-family, pro-freedom, and pro-faith. If you are looking for businesses to support that share your values, or you are a business owner of any kind and you're looking to access a whole new customer base of people so excited to support your business, you can find all of that over at publicsquare.com. I guess, chat, in lieu of just saying hi to people for the sake of saying hi to people, let's start the stream today by saying this. Men who might happen to be watching today, is male birth control gel, hand sanitizer, we'll get to all the deets, something that you would feel comfortable using at first blush hearing about this. Let us know in the chat and we will say hi to some people as we are getting started today. Elite says this is a very attention-getting title of the stream, so perhaps we'll see. Men, any of you feel comfortable with the idea of using male birth control gel? Beastie says never, ever, ever would use this. Matt says male birth control. Do you mean condoms? Oh, how I wish I still meant condoms. Sadly. Magic Def says a bunch of losers. Yeah, that sounds about right. It looks like resounding no's everywhere from men. Adam says sunblock, but S-O-N block. Adam, genius. I never would have thought of that. Oh, that's terrible. Ugh. Big Patty says not at all. Don't even want women on the pill. Oh, sunblock. Adam, you win. Best comment. W's for you in the chat today. Well, apparently this is a new thing that's being marketed to men, particularly in interesting timing from my perspective. Now, you guys know how I feel about female hormonal birth control, but just in case you don't know my feelings on the subject, because I know we have been growing like crazy across all of our platforms, I am a big believer in transparency with you guys about all of the things and all of my feelings and values on things. So when it comes to birth control, I'm a big believer in just being honest with you guys about my experience, even if I get called some sort of fanatical right-wing propagandist by the media for doing so. Like most of the women of our generation, I was first prescribed hormonal birth control when I was 15 years old at the time because I had horrible systemic acne problems and had used every single dermatological prescription drug on the market for my acne, except for, at the time, Accutane, which was a new, very controversial acne pharmaceutical drug that they were very worried people would get pregnant while they were taking because it caused all kinds of birth defects in children that were conceived by parents who were taking Accutane. So the government actually mandated at this time, this would have been 2012 that I was first prescribed Accutane. I think it was. That you had to be on 2 forms of birth control. And you were really, really lucky if you had a dermatologist that would let you say that abstinence was one of your forms of birth control. Luckily, my dermatologist was my next door neighbor growing up, so that was all great. But the other one, absolutely for women, 100% had to be hormonal birth control pills. And I was told at the time by pretty much every healthcare practitioner in my life, yeah, you might not really need this right now. Certainly you need it to take Accutane, but eventually in just a couple of years or even just a couple of months, every teenage girl wants to be on hormonal birth control because it saves you from pretty much everything. You're not going to have horrible periods. What they don't tell you is you really don't have a period at all, period, no pun intended, while you are taking hormonal birth control. You're not going to have these horrible periods. You're not going to gain a bunch of weight like most teenage girls do, even though that ends up happening to most people while they're on birth control. You're not going to get headaches. Your energy levels are going to be way better. You're not going to be crampy and hormonal and miserable all the time. Like, just trust me. Just trust me. This is something that you definitely are going to want to be on. So I took it for the Accutane and I ended up staying on birth control because I was told by everybody, the minute you stop taking this, even though you're done with Accutane, you're going to break out like crazy and your skin is going to be terrible and all of the hard work that you just put your body through will all be for naught if that's the case. And like most women my age, even though I wasn't using hormonal birth control pills for the purpose of preventing pregnancy, I stayed on hormonal birth controls off and on, but relatively on, over the course of about 9 years of my life. And after almost a decade being on these pharmaceutical drugs every single day, and easily 95+% of my friends being on these drugs every single day, I read a book called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. I feel like if I'm ever a repeating record on this live stream, it is always telling people, male and female alike, to read this book because it completely changed my life. This book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control, was written by Dr. Sarah Hill, who is a professor at Texas Christian University. She is unbelievably brilliant and started asking a bunch of questions about birth control and how regulating your hormones, which sounds so innocent, really does create a downstream cascade of effects throughout your entire body and your entire personality. Because it turns out, despite how this is often talked about to young women, we are totally messing up on purpose the conversation about how hormones work to begin with. You guys know, educationally, my background is in the biomedical sciences. I was pre-med throughout all of college and my master's degree. And even I, as somebody sitting there taking physiology and cellular bio and human gross anatomy, never thought about hormones like this until I started reading this book. Young women especially are told you get hormonal, that your hormones are something that happen to you, right? Every time a girl is on her period, you think, oh God, she's so hormonal. If you grew up in a house with a bunch of girls, your dad is always like, everyone's so hormonal. I need to get out of the house. Please send me to run some errands or work in the yard. When you start crying over literally nothing because you're PMSing, ladies, we've all been there. We tell ourselves, oh, it's because I'm so hormonal. But this book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control, reminded me, even though this was something I already knew as a scientist, your hormones are not something that happen to you. Your hormones are you, and you are your hormones. There is no way to look at the giant circuit board of all of the little flipping switches of how your body functions to pick a singular hormone to single out and regulate the way that we say hormonal birth control does. It regulates your estrogen and your progesterone levels throughout your 28-day cycle. There's no way to change the volume of either of those hormones and not expect that there will be massive repercussions for doing so and unintended consequences. Birth control pills and apologists for hormonal birth control pills will tell you that when you regulate your estrogen and progesterone on birth control, the only thing you are doing to your body is preventing yourself from getting pregnant. That's it. That's the only side effect from taking these medications. And it's not a side effect, actually. It's the intended effect of these pharmaceuticals. That's exactly what we're trying to do. But they won't tell you that messing with your estrogen and progesterone levels every single day by preventing your body from functioning as it normally is supposed to will also change you, your personality, how you respond to stress, what your energy levels look like, what type of man you are attracted to, who finds you attractive, and what your natural pheromones are made up of. It will change your body's immune system. It will change your interest in your personal hobbies. It will cause all kinds of mental problems with depression and anxiety and everything else. And I start reading this book, this would have been 2.5, 3 years ago at this point, after 9 years on birth control. And I started feeling like I was reading a synopsis of my entire teenage, college, and young adult life. I completely resonated with this idea that my stress response, for good and for bad, had been completely tampered with, that I always felt ridiculously clinically anxious because I wasn't responding in the way that my body was naturally supposed to respond when I was stressed out. I started resonating with the understanding of the clinical depression that's often brought onto young women by hormonal birth control pills because you just kind of always feel when you take all of your hormones and you put them mid levels, of course you're going to feel mid all the time. I started thinking about a lot of relationships, long-term relationships that I had had with young men that didn't work out. And I started asking myself, why did I find this person wildly attractive when in retrospect that really didn't work out and they really weren't my type? And millions of other young women are starting to read these books. They're starting to see new studies emerge about what birth control is doing to us, not just our bodies, which there is entire PhD course level discussions we could have about the risk of strokes, the risk of cancer, the risk of blood clots, and everything in between, but also to our minds, to our mental health, to our spiritual health, and everything else as well. So when I read headlines like this one, that male birth control is in development, is currently being tested on young men, and is totally safe and effective, I kind of go into PTSD mode, to be honest with you, because they say that all women's birth control is wildly safe and effective, that there are no serious concerns with its long-term use. And yet myself and every single one of my friends, every single one of them can tell you horror stories about their experience using birth control that messed with their hormone levels. And 99% of the time when we're talking about birth control, that's what we are talking about. Everybody's asking for the book title again one more time before we jump into this male birth control and how it works. It's called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. I know for a fact you can get it on Amazon. And just for you guys to be able to look it up, I'll show you what the title looks like. Or the cover, I mean. Oh, come on, Amazon. It's by Dr. Sarah Hill. She is a professor at Texas Christian University. This is what the new cover looks like. This book is $16 right now on Amazon. 12 out of 10 recommend. This Is Your Brain on Birth Control, How the Pill Changes Everything. It looks like they ended up re-releasing it last summer, but I read this a couple of years ago. Unbelievably fascinating book that changed my entire outlook on hormones and hormonal regulation. So I go into PTSD mode when I hear people say, well, maybe women's birth control has had all of these issues, but maybe we should just do male birth control instead because that will be totally, totally safe and effective. And I guess the first thing I have to say about this to the young men who happen to be watching is very, very simple in terms of messaging. Men, if you have ever dated a woman who has taken birth control for a long period of time, if you have ever been married to a woman who has taken birth control for a very long period of time, if you are the father of a young woman who has ever taken birth control for a prolonged period of time, I want to say this in the most delicate and kind way possible. And from my own experience, messing and tampering with your hormone levels for a very long period of time is not safe or effective. It makes you a crazy person. Okay? None of us want to say, oh, my girlfriend's crazy. My wife is crazy. My daughter's being crazy right now. She's just so hormonal. But I will just say from my own experience, birth control made me a crazy person. And it makes all of my friends feel like a crazy person. And then you quit and you can see the sunshine again. And all of a sudden you realize what you've been doing to your body for years or decades. You've been slow release poisoning yourself because you were promised by everyone in your life that this thing was totally safe and effective and was going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. So let's just get ahead of the curve right now with this new story that's emerging this week. That male birth control gel is set to hit the market as totally safe and effective. When you hear these words related to hormone regulation, run, sprint as fast as you possibly can in the opposite direction. But the media won't tell you that. The media has to sell this to you as if it's the greatest invention that's ever hit the market because of various reasons. Because all of these insane women are quitting their birth control amid right-wing propaganda on the internet. We reacted to that story not a month ago here on the stream, that in the current country we live in with new abortion restrictions, the demand for male birth control is growing like crazy because these insane right-wingers want to force your girlfriend or wife to have a child. And the only thing you can do as a real man is to rub your body with birth control gel. Ugh. Every time I say this, it just really, really gives me the ick, to be totally honest with you. NBC News reported this just a couple of days ago, that there is a second phase of a clinical trial that has just passed with flying colors, with young men volunteering to test this hormonal birth control gel. Listen to this. Every morning for a year and a half, Logan Whitehead, unfortunate name, 24 years old, rubbed a clear gel on his shoulders, waited for it to dry, and then went about his day as usual. It was basically like a hand sanitizer solution, says Whitehead, who lives in California. Shocking that this young man lives in California. He said it smelled like hand sanitizer and it looked like hand sanitizer, but this gel wasn't hand sanitizer. It was a hormonal solution meant to block Whitehead's sperm production. The gel was male birth control. So I don't fully understand the mechanism of action here, which is the fancy way we would say this in pharmacology class. But it sounds like you take what looks like hand sanitizer, you put it in your hands, you rub it all over your shoulders, you wait for it to dry, and all of a sudden the downstairs neighbors know, do not produce sperm as normal. So what's in this magical hand sanitizer gel? Logan Whitehead wanted to know. The product contains testosterone and a synthetic hormone. If you ever see the word synthetic in pharmaceuticals, synthetic means man-made. It means not naturally occurring. It means fake, okay? Most female hormonal birth control also involves synthetic hormones, fake hormones, which cause all kinds of problems. This one is called nesterone. And together, testosterone and nesterone, which we'll find out what that is momentarily, reduce sperm production and is part of many, many options that are just now starting to be experimented on to hit the market for male birth control options. This new gel has not yet been approved by the Food and Drug Administration, although let's just be honest with ourselves, of all of the things that the FDA approves, how many of them are actually truly safe and effective? This kid, Logan, who's been part of the trial experiment lineup, says that he would absolutely use it for longer periods of time if it is approved by the FDA, especially because he's been watching his girlfriend struggle using birth control. And yet it's such a great idea for him to start using it. He liked that the gel was such an easy process. It's basically like taking the pill for the day. He said he didn't notice side effects using the gel beyond some upper back acne and possibly a bit of weight gain. Although that could have been blamed on the stress of a new job and the fact that his new job is wildly sedentary. But that would just be crazy if it was caused by the gel itself. It's not like women's birth control pills cause weight gain. They do. It's not like women's birth control pills can cause massive breakouts and mess with your skin. They do. But it definitely didn't come from the birth control. The fact that this kid gained weight and started breaking out everywhere. He was just stressed, obviously. This gel trial, again, is just one of many trials for various different types of male birth control currently being conducted. It's been going on for the last couple of years, involving 222 men aged 18 to 50, each of who have applied 5 milliliters of this weird hand sanitizer consistency gel, about the size of a teaspoon, to either shoulder blades every single day. How applying a lotion on your shoulder blades tells the downstairs neighbors, please stop making sperm, I'm still having a very hard time understanding, but apparently it achieved its desired results because after 12 weeks of applying this gel every single day, 86% of the trial participants achieved sperm suppression, meaning that they had only 1 million sperm per milliliter of semen, which was an amount the researchers deemed effective for contraception. On average, you have to do this every single day for about 8 weeks for it to start working. This faster than expected timing to suppress sperm, they say, is an encouraging sign, especially since past attempts have taken a lot longer to suppress sperm to this level. And here's how they say they did it. Prior efforts have used only testosterone alone to suppress sperm production, which has required really high doses of testosterone. Obviously, that can cause all kinds of downstream side effects that are not typically something you want to sell to a mass market consumer. But now, because this new gel has both testosterone and that synthetic hormone that I mentioned, nesterone, they say it moves much more quickly and requires less testosterone to be involved in the drug. So what is nesterone? It's a synthetic hormone called a progestin. If you have been a young woman taking hormonal birth control pills at all lately in the recent past, in the last couple of years, you may recognize that term progestin because it is a testosterone derivative fake hormone that they have made in laboratories that's already been included in female birth control for years and years and years. It is a testosterone derivative that mimics the structure of progesterone, a naturally occurring female hormone as well. And even NBC News admits this has already been used in female contraceptives. So combining nesterone and testosterone in the new gel is meant to keep men from producing sperm without affecting their sex drive or causing other side effects. Interesting. What did I say at the very beginning of this entire conversation about how there's no such thing as going to the switchboards of your hormones as a human being and saying, oh, well, we're going to mess with your levels of testosterone, but we're not going to impact anything else other than how much sperm you are creating. Oh, we're going to mess with your estrogen and mess with your progesterone, but we're not going to impact anything else naturally going on in your body associated with these hormones, except for your ability to conceive a child. There is no such thing as selective manipulation of the effects of hormones. Doesn't work. Physically impossible to do. Maybe someday, I suppose. But when you mess with the levels of a hormone occurring naturally in someone's body by giving them synthetic hormones or by turning up or down the natural production of it, there are endless downstream unintended consequences that are 100% linked to the medication that you are taking. I don't know that this last sentence is physically possible in a male birth control pharmaceutical. I don't think, personally, but I'm not an expert, let's get ahead of the fact checkers for that, it is possible to use a synthetic fake hormone, progestin, and testosterone to be combined to stop the production of sperm without affecting your sex drive. I don't think that's possible. And I certainly don't think that it's possible to prevent any other downstream side effects in the process. But that doesn't stop these scientists, and it certainly doesn't stop the media from insisting, well before this is even approved for market use, that new male birth control gel is both safe and, of course, effective. I mentioned that the gel is not the only male birth control currently in production. The University of Washington has recently been updating us since 2019, but even more recently, that there are male birth control pills currently being experimented with large male populations as test subjects for safety and effectiveness. And there's also a new, very controversial injection male birth control. There's already a shot female birth control that's being used in experimental trials at the moment that's gaining a lot of traction over on TikTok.
I spent the last 13 months of my life on male birth control in a clinical trial in Seattle. And here are 3 of the main takeaways that I had from this experience.
Of course it was Seattle.
The first, almost every single man that I spoke to about this study said that once there's data proving it is safe and effective, they'd be interested in trying the drugs themselves.
That's a nice little convenient asterisk on the end of this. Everybody says, well, once it's proven to be safe and effective, of course I, as a man, will do my part to take this medication. Yeah, that'd be nice if we could actually prove that female birth control has ever been safe or effective.
Now, most of them across the board weren't interested in being on the study itself. But how cool is it that they'd be willing to try once it's proven safe and effective? The second, I learned that there's a bizarre amount of misinformation about male and female contraception. A lot of this for people that either swore the drugs off 30 years ago or have never had the drugs in their body themselves. And the third thing that I learned that I did not expect at all is a ton of people's personal anecdotes and experiences with female contraception.
Yeah, because women everywhere are starting to come out of the woodwork, no matter what your political philosophy or your religious background happens to be, warning people, for the love of all that is good, do not take this. Do not make the same mistake that I made. And of course, they have to blame it on right-wing propaganda because people can't be self-aware and take responsibility over their own health. How dare you even suggest that? But of course, there are people sharing their personal anecdotes about this because we've all been miserable taking it.
Little did I know that joining this study would mean that once I told people about it, they would share their own personal experiences or their friends or family members' experiences. And I have learned so much about it through this experience that I wouldn't even have known to ask the questions for.
So this guy's handle on TikTok, I'm not joking, is the sexy socialist. It's pretty on brand, pretty appropriate. And he himself has been participating in one of these clinical trials. Listen to him describe what this new injection male birth control is going to look like. Ouch.
By now you've probably heard of a male contraceptive called Vasogel. It's a type of hydrogel that's injected into a male's ductus deferens, which used to be called the vas deferens, to block sperm from exiting during ejaculation.
Do you guys remember health class? Most of us didn't take human gross anatomy with cadavers. I did. But do you guys remember health class? Do you remember where your ductus deferens is? Ouch!
That means that they are firing blanks. Everything's still working, they're just blocking the part that can get you pregnant. Now, Vasogel is really exciting for lots of reasons. First of all, it's considered a medical device and not a drug. What that means is that it has a quicker timeline to market. And we're talking 2026.
So it's not a drug. Let's be abundantly clear. Even though it's something we are injecting into your body in a wildly unpleasant location to prevent your body from functioning normally using hormones, it's not a drug. We want to be abundantly clear about this. It's a medical device. And why is it important to classify this Vasogel as a medical device, it's because we can get it to market and get it injected into males' downstairs area as fast as humanly possible. We don't have nearly as many safety checks and nearly as many trial requirements as a pharmaceutical drug if we can classify this as a medical device. So we are definitely going to get this on the market by 2026. Matt just reminded us in our chat, by the way, block sperm, ... A condom does that without messing up your hormones. Yeah. And without an injection. So, shocking. Brand new technology, I know.
27, very soon. Other exciting things about it is that Vasogel itself is this thing that's been studied for 30 years over in India that's called reversible inhibition of sperm under guidance, which I feel like was a backronym because I don't understand how they call a gel that. But it's been studied for such a long time and it's reversible in name.
That sounds familiar with just about every single thing we hear about regulating your hormones right now. Different setting, but that word has been used an awful lot lately. I feel like Inigo Montoya. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Just saying. I'm just saying.
It's the immediate alternative to getting a vasectomy, which by design was not meant to be reversible. And now you can reverse it.
Oh, so we can admit that now. Just to be clear, we can admit vasectomies were never designed to be reversible. Even though we keep telling men, yeah, they are. They're totally safe. Totally reversible. They really weren't designed for that. But this is. Trust us. Look at the shiny new thing.
But the success rate is not 100%. The most exciting thing about this to me, I think, is that it's called Plan A when it hits market. Because if Plan A works, you won't need Plan B.
Talk about the most ridiculous ick marketing I've ever heard. They are actually calling this injection Plan A because if your man can just step up and be a man and get this injection into his ductus deferens, then you won't need as a woman to take Plan B. Cringe. Like the cringe meter is through the effing roof at this point. But he seems excited about it, the sexy socialist. And if the sexy socialist, self-named, on TikTok is all about it, then men, you all should be too.
Here with Fox from Plan A, and I'm going to be the first female to get male birth control.
So this girl goes to a medical convention and happens to run into the Plan A people for these injections, showing you exactly how this is going to work.
This is the Plan A. This is the male birth control.
And so what we do is we take just a little bit of that Plan A and we inject it into the vas deferens. It's the tube that carries sperm. But in lieu of that, we're going to use your hand.
Okay, so you can see it's starting to solidify.
A little bit of ejaculate. Fake ejaculate. And take the cap off, that will help. And a little squirt. And you can see a nice little squirtage.
That's a lot.
Well, it was an exciting day.
Everywhere. You can get it all over your suit.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So it's solidified now. You can see it's...
That is the flexible filter.
So that, by the way, is happening in your body, men. That cannot be healthy. That cannot be safe. Solidifying things that should not be solids. I don't know. First blush here, that is not a good idea at all.
Stuff. Plan A allows all of the fluids to pass through, the good stuff, but holds back the sperm. What that means is you get all of the juice, but none of the seed. And now we're going to reverse Plan A, showing how easy it is to reverse. And this can be done at any time, whether it's 10 days, 10 months, or 10 years later. And we're going to show that with a little bit of a squirt of the reversal.
Look, immediately.
So that foaming action is it aerosolizing. How does it feel to be the first female to get male birth control?
Sticky.
Ugh. Okay, that cannot be a good idea. Chat, immediate reactions to any of this. Nicholas says Plan A is nasty. Kelsey says, so the sperm is the bad stuff then? Lord Jesus, help us. Yeah. Anisa, how about just don't sleep with people if you don't want to get anyone pregnant? You know, it's a shocking revelation. We'll talk about that at the end of the stream. But yeah, it's a little shocking. VTS Fitness Plan A. A stands for abstinence. Yes. Based. Farmer Caleb, this cannot be comfortable. Wish Nick, this is not safe at all. Yeah, Amy V, sounds like a blockage issue. So we're just voluntarily turning what is supposed to be a liquid into solids inside of males' bodies and just expecting that that's very normal, totally reversible, 100% safe and effective. Alex, to quote the Pope, no. Amazing. So again, what's the point of all of this? Whether it's an injection into your downstairs, whether it's a hand sanitizer gel that you're rubbing all over your shoulders every day for 8 weeks, or whether it's a male birth control pill, the aim here, unlike women's birth control, which is to prevent implantation more often than not, by the way, mostly acting as an abortifacient. So you still can conceive a child. That child just has nowhere to implant in your uterus. Male birth control is specifically aimed at decreasing sperm production. Remember, we said in the gel, combining testosterone and testosterone is meant to keep men from producing sperm. And they're trying to do that without affecting male sex drive and all kinds of other problems later on in a downstream cascade of side effects. So the question I immediately have for all of the producers of these groundbreaking, totally safe and effective new, very, very important drugs in the age of abortion bans is this. Why are we desperately trying to decrease sperm production in young men everywhere, in healthy men everywhere, when our society is already experiencing all-time low sperm counts in young men? Why? Our society is already doing this. So are you trying to escalate the process? Are we trying to speed up the timeline? So many toxins and horrible chemicals are present everywhere in our society, in the food that we are eating, in the clothes that we wear, in the chemicals that we use to clean our house, in everything, down to the body wash that men use in the shower, that already naturally sperm counts all over the entire world are down to record low levels. The New Scientist magazine reported on this in January of this year, that scientists across the world are starting to freak out about male fertility, that particularly in the 2020s, male sperm counts have decreased worldwide, not just in the United States, to an all-time low. You guys may have found out about this at this point, particularly affecting women's birth control, but the United States pharmaceutical industry, who funds all of the peer-reviewed studies in the pharmaceutical industry, isn't really interested in asking a lot of the tough questions about the drugs that they are creating, because it might cause people not to use their drugs, which is why important studies on mental health impacts of female birth control, on how it impacts our sex drives, on how it impacts who we are attracted to, all of the things that I told you about in that book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control, those studies haven't been done in the United States on purpose, because the companies making the drugs are the people funding the studies. They don't want you to stop using them. So similarly, there's not a lot of studies happening within the US on decreasing sperm counts that are naturally occurring for young men. Nobody wants to admit that that's happening, especially when these pharmaceutical companies are now trying to sell you male birth control that is totally safe and effective. But the University of Copenhagen put together this last February, not new information, but conducted this study. Why have sperm counts decreased to an all-time low? A new leading study seeks to find the answer. The University of Copenhagen in Denmark says by 2044, the average sperm count of men may be 0 by 2020 or 2044. I need to repeat that to make sure everybody just heard that. By 2044, 20 years from right now, the average sperm count of men everywhere may be 0. At least if the same decline trajectory in sperm count of men continues to decrease at the rate that it is today. Yikes! So why are we letting people sell us drugs that on purpose prevent sperm production? The University of Copenhagen said this: already today, most of us are likely to know someone who has undergone fertility treatment. Yeah, chat, anybody know people going through fertility treatment right now? I just said the other day in reference to a totally different conversation. I personally have numerous friends, cousins, everybody who have struggled very, very, very badly over the last couple of years to have a child. It is a very difficult journey for most of my friends these days. They say the number of sperm cells that a man produces has been cut in half in the last 50 years. And around 1 in 10 children today around the world is a result of assisted reproduction. 1/10 of all the kids born around the world today are a result of fertility treatments that you have to buy from companies who have to sell them to you. The same companies, by the way, who are making you groundbreaking, super empowering, very important drugs that will decrease your sperm production on the front end. And then when you can't naturally produce sperm later on down the line, definitely not because of these drugs, let's be abundantly clear, then we'll sell you the fertility treatment when eventually you do want to have a child. They say researchers from the University of Copenhagen have compared human sperm cells with sperm cells from our closest relatives, the great apes. And it actually makes the good sense to compare the two because in many ways, our reproductive systems work the same way. Apes actually produce around 3 times the amount of sperm cells naturally as humans. By studying the genes expressed in each cell in the testes of apes and humans, the researchers have been able to identify genes that are expressed in the same way or in different ways, helping us to better understand why human sperm counts are decreasing while the sperm production of apes remains efficient. Interesting. A lot of this has to do with chromosomes and cell division, and I don't want to go way too far into the weeds of all of the cell division science because I think it's a lot for people to wrap their heads around if you guys don't love science and you don't remember mitosis and meiosis, but we will end with this on the Copenhagen study. Research into sperm quality is important because right now the only reason why the world population is increasing, which we just talked about the other day, remember this study is from over a year ago, the world population is not projected to keep increasing. Very, very quickly, the world population is projected to go into imminent population collapse. The only reason the world population is increasing is that we live longer, according to this study, not because we are producing more children. The last meta-analyses show that human sperm counts are decreasing. An extrapolation based on this downward sloping curve reveals that by 2044, the average sperm count for a man will be 0. This is an average figure, and it does not mean that there will be no men left in the world able to conceive, but it does say something about the severity of the situation we are facing as a society. We are having too few babies. In fact, we are currently facing a huge fertility crisis. I love how you can talk about this in other countries a year and a half before anybody even starts noticing in the United States. We have just not noticed because people live longer, which means that the world population is still growing, but it is not because we have more children. Yikes. So interesting. To recap, women are quitting birth control in droves because it turns out we were lied to over the last several decades about everything that birth control was going to fix, which in fact it exacerbated instead and caused infinite problems in our spiritual, mental, and physical health when it was promised to make our lives better. We are now blowing the whistle on this all over social media, begging women of the next generation not to fall for the same lies and propaganda that we did, which has nothing to do with your political affiliation or your religious background, but just hear us when we say Birth control ruined a whole lot of lives. So now that women aren't taking it enough, they want to sell men birth control. They'll sell you a birth control gel. They'll sell you a birth control pill. They'll sell you a birth control injection right into your nether regions that are all totally safe and totally effective and absolutely won't impact your long-term health, even though the point of this medication is specifically to decrease your sperm production right smack dab in the middle of a global sperm decline catastrophe. What many experts are calling a fertility crisis on the accelerated pathway, foot on the gas pedal as hard to the floor as you possibly can to let the average sperm count in men be 0. But as a man, that's your duty. That's plan A. Don't make your woman resort to plan B. Your job as the man is to make sure that you prohibit your body from functioning normally. So, chat, anybody want to sign up to take male birth control? I don't think so. What are our immediate reactions to this? I'm dying to know. Magic Def says this is for simps, gimps, wimps, and incels. Well said. There's a commercial in there somewhere. 100%. Red 4, they are going to make it so that the only way people can have children is to take fertility drugs, and then they'll regulate the shit out of the drugs so that only approved people can receive them. Margaret Sanger would be rejoicing if she could see her work. If you guys don't already know who Margaret Sanger is, you have homework. Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood, and her entire goal in life essentially was population control. From her own mouth, by the way. We're not projecting that onto her. GKU, imagine that. Women were lied to about the side effects of birth control. I cannot believe the pharmaceutical companies or the government would ever lie to people. I love that there is a viral TikTok audio at this moment in time that's, and kids, the next time people say, the government would never do that. Oh, yes, they would. Naruto says, a good kick in the nuts works very well, too. Probably would save you a whole lot of money and long-term agony for a very short period of pain instead. Sean says, I don't know, closing your legs is a great method. Interesting. And DR followed it up by saying, just keep your parts in your pants, guys. Problems solved with no drugs involved. Nude Monk, no more children in human bodies. They want everyone to be pod babies. That sounds so insane. Like, that sounds so Black Mirror, Brave New World, The Giver vibes. And everybody laughs at you and says you're like this insane conspiracy theorist for even remotely suggesting that. But at this point, over the last couple of years, what have we discovered? That we basically have no sperm production in men, very, very imminently, actually no sperm production in men. That birth control basically has to be pushed onto you at a younger and younger age because that's the only way to be sexually liberated. That women shouldn't even participate in the conception of babies because there are biotech startup companies in places like San Francisco, literally, ironically, called Conception, that are growing babies from stem cells instead of involvement of human egg cells at all in any step in the process. It sounds crazy, but are we really that far off from a reality where all children are conceived artificially? Probably not. Alex has a prediction. The red pillars will be the first in line. Interesting. King Vivian, God created man and woman to have sex and to procreate. Yes, he did. And I guess this is where I just get so confused and genuinely have such a hard time wrapping my head around all of this. My fiance and I were talking about this months and months and months ago because we were going through our premarital counseling at church, which, by the way, I highly, highly believe that premarital preparation, counseling, whatever, in the Catholic Church, we call it pre-Cana. Everybody is required to do it in order to get married in the Catholic Church. Should be required because it forces you to talk about things that I'm actually kind of shocked a lot of my friends never talked about before their wedding day. Total side note, soapbox. Anyway, we're going through our pre-Cana preparation and we're talking about all kinds of stuff. But one of the things that you have to talk about is how you envision having a family and how all of this plays into it, your intimacy and what that's going to look like later in life. And I just found myself asking, why does our society absolutely insist that it is anti-human? It is against our nature. It is somehow literally impossible to not sleep with someone until you're married. I realize it's difficult. I realize that it's a challenge. I realize that, of course, there are impulses that people have. But why is our society so obsessed with telling people that it is physically impossible? It is fundamentally against human nature to have higher reasoning over your physical impulses, to have reasoning over your decisions at all, to have thought gone into the choices that you make and the consequences of said choices. I think it's sad how our society approaches this entire conversation because on one hand, we have sold a lie to millions upon millions upon millions of people that sex means nothing, that there is no emotional connection associated with any of this, that it's just a fun thing that's going to make you feel really good and make them feel really good, and you have to do it because that's what people were wired to do, and there's no choice that you have in the matter to not, because why would you limit yourself from being liberated from the bondages of society? But also that it means everything to the point that it controls you, that your sexual impulses and your physical desires control your higher reasoning, both of which are halfway true, but mostly untrue. Because the truth is this: sex is awesome. It's amazing. It is a beautiful gift given to humanity by a loving God to mimic the love that he has for us. It is the closest intimacy that you will ever have with another human being. And I heard it explained in our pre-Cana, pre-wedding preparation in a beautiful way that I had never heard before. Having sex with your husband or wife is the only experience that we will ever have in this lifetime of understanding what it is like in some capacity, a very limited capacity, to be God, because it was designed to create new life. It is the only experience humanity has in the direct intimacy opportunity with God, not just with your partner, to create life. How insanely cool is that to think about? And our entire society seems hell-bent on taking that away from people. All of our research, all of our resources, all of our money, our time, our interests, our media seems entirely insistent on taking away the opportunity to participate in the creation of new life alongside God, which honestly is really sad. They say that this is so liberating and we're so self-aware, we're so educated, we're so progressive. No one in human history has ever been as progressive as we have been. And yet there's something fundamentally regressive about lying to people that you have no control over your impulses, that sex controls you, that there is no point to having a lifelong relationship with the person that you are engaging in the closest intimacy possible with, and that you don't even need sex to create new human life, because we'll just do it from stem cells in a petri dish in a laboratory in San Francisco. You were designed for so much more than that. And you deserve so much more than that. Not to sound like a progressive apologist, but you do. You deserve so much more than that. And I just want to say this to anybody who's been feeling frustrated or confused or maybe never has heard an alternative viewpoint on the subject. Yeah, sure, sex is great. I feel like it's like the meme. Sex is great, but have you da 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 da? Sure, that's great. And I'm sure our society is telling you you're going to feel awesome. You're going to feel great. You're going to feel happy. You're going to feel loved. You're going to feel desired. You're going to feel confident and empowered. But if we're really honest with ourselves in our society, every person that I know who believed that lie, that your impulses control you rather than the other way around, woke up weeks or months or years down the line with a whole lot of regret, with an emptiness inside that couldn't be replaced by anything other than God. And I think what's so beautiful about a marriage relationship, and what I'm really looking forward to experiencing in my own upcoming marriage, is that you are, in a way, experiencing closer intimacy with God as you get closer to your partner as well. Good marriages have all three parties involved. It's not just you married to the other person. God has to be involved in the conversation too. And the closer you get to one another, the closer you're going to get to him as well, which not just impacts your emotional health or your mental health or your physical health, but obviously impacts your intimacy and your sex life for the better too. And I wish we were able to have that conversation with people before the world and the lies of the world gets to them. But I guess instead, we're just going to have to say, please, please, please hear us when we say, men, don't take the new male birth control, okay? Learn from the women in your life. It is just not worth it. And you are deserving of so much more in your intimacy experiences too. We were also going to cover today on the stream this crazy new emerging story that the Surgeon General wants to put warning labels for addiction on social media platforms, and everybody seems really divided about it. But our conversation ended up going a little bit longer than normal. So we'll talk about that tomorrow on the stream instead. Thank you guys so much for your flexibility with me as I get married in 11 days. So everything is a little confusing and up in the air, and our schedule is very, very much out of whack. But I'm so excited to share this journey with you guys. And there's lots of fun wedding related content to come in the next couple of weeks. Bear with us as our schedule gets a little crazy in the next couple of weeks. And most importantly, give some love to our amazing sponsors who help to make everything that we do possible. You guys know I am a totally independent creator. I do not work for a big media conglomerate. I stream every day out of the spare bedroom of my house and have never put a single dime behind advertising to grow these channels. It is all 100% organic. So I am so grateful for the amazing companies that believe in us, believe in this content, and help to grow this community one day at a time. First up, our amazing friends over at Hallow, the world's largest Christian prayer app. They are going through a very cool deep dive study into the Gospel of John this month, led by Jeff Cavins, who is amazing, and narrated by Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus in The Chosen. Cannot recommend enough. And Hallow has more than 10,000 other prayers, meditations, mental health resources, podcast episodes, and more that I know you guys are going to love. The more upside down and backwards our world gets, the more we need a lot of extra prayers. And you can get a 3-month free trial into everything Hallow has to offer right now at hallow.com, HALLOW.com/Isabel, ISABEL. And lastly, big thank you to our friends over at Rough Greens, who are doing everything they can to transform your dog's nutrition to be the best that it possibly can be in the era of dead dog food. Rough Greens works just like a protein powder. You take a little scoop of it and you put it on top of your dog's existing food, and it is chock full of minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, and more, helping your dog be as healthy as they can be. They are offering you a free Jumpstart trial pack. All you have to do is go to roughgreens.com, RUFFgreens.com, and cover the cost of shipping and handling. But I can promise you, you will love it. Your dog will love it. Livy eats it every day and absolutely has transformed her health. And you guys know I would never tell you to feed your dog something if it didn't work for my absolute princess best friend as well. We are back tomorrow for the stream. We'll talk about the Surgeon General warning and some other very fun things. And don't forget, I have some very fun announcements in the next couple of weeks about some big changes coming to our structure of content delivery based on your guys' recommendations and asks. I cannot wait to share them with you. Signing off. Have a lovely afternoon. We'll see you guys tomorrow.